Well, first off, my name is Sierra. We met briefly at your dinner that you had here in Hampton, Virginia, and that was a dope experience. And I actually talked about that on my channel. So I have a YouTube channel, like I said, about spirituality and just mindset shift and everything. Um, and so I just love how you're doing this tour and you're really trying to get our community to start to think differently. So you could just kind of give us a brief introduction about who you are and then just kind of like your mission, just for those who don't know who you are.
Yes, I go by 19 Keys. I consider myself a futurist, a thought leader, someone whose goal is to bring true wealth, right? And true wealth to me is the ability to be able to think independently, the ability to be able to think for self, right? The ability to be able to create your own systems, right? And to have self liberation. And so for me, I'm always trying to prepare us for the future so that we know and we have the skill sets to build. And so I go around the planet, right, educating us from anything from wealth to consciousness, metaphysics, science, cognitive sciences, artificial intelligence, right, financial literacy, et cetera, you name it. I've been doing this publicly for the last like 10 plus years, right? And then my whole life has really been this journey of raising the consciousness of our people.
Okay. So with that, like what would you say would be like um the best way to kind of shift your mindset for people who are kind of distracted and caught in the media and just caught, with all the things that are going on in the world right now?
I think the best way to shift your mindset, especially if you caught in the digital distractions of this world, is to detox, right? You have to be able to practice digital literacy, right? And digital literacy is new for a lot of people, but in the day and age that we're living in, you're going to have the ability to be able to fast from social media when needed and also ask the right questions, right? When you're on these apps are now in this time where they're talking back to you, meaning that they now have the ability to influence you, right? I've sometimes go and I do my research on the bots that spread a lot of the outrage and the chaos on social media. And what you find is these are bots. You go look at their page, they don't have a real history. It's not a real person. They're just part of an algorithm that's meant to stir you into chaos and meant to have a hyper fringe take on something so that you feel disgusted by it, you feel outraged by it, and it forces you to engage in it. And who does that benefit? So when you're on social media, right, specifically as we're utilizing technology, you want to make sure you have good digital hygiene. Take a step back, learn how to reset, take a step back, breathe, ask yourself a question. Is this aligned with my goals? Is this aligned with my faith? Is this aligned with my beliefs? Right? Why am I over engaging in these things? Right? Learn to actually listen to long form content instead of short form content because you might find yourself scrolling and you're 6 seconds in and you want to go to the next video. That's a representation, right, of your own ability to focus or your lack thereof. So I think it's proper to have good hygiene, fasting, meditation, reading, researching, creating an environment that doesn't make it so easy for your mind to be distractible, I think are all keys.
Right. I was watching your video that you had did a few days ago about the whole, you know, Charlie Kirk situation, and everything. You were speaking on cognitive warfare. Can you like kind of go a little deeper into that and just explain what that is?
Yeah. So our cognition is our ability to think, to be able to process, right, things, our critical thinking skills, creative thinking skills, right, to be able to reason and rationale. That part of your brain can be hijacked, right? That part of your brain can be manipulated and influenced. There's a science called captology, which is the science of how machines influence us. Most people have never heard of captology whatsoever, yet we're always using machines. When a new technology comes around, right, we're not really looking in the back end of how do these things work. We just want to make sure that they are working for us when we want to use them. So cognitive warfare is a new type of warfare, right, that exists in the 21st century, where it is the ability to manipulate how you think, right? It's the ability to practice narrative warfare that can spread stories and ideas and control how you perceive reality and even how you perceive yourself. There's like a feedback coming. I'm not sure what that is.
Sorry, you were kind of breaking up a little bit right there. Can you repeat that last part?
Yeah, there was some feedback that I was hearing. But cognitive warfare is the ability to manipulate the mind to control how you think. And specifically online in the digital environment, utilizing bots, artificial intelligence, etc.
Sorry, I'm like right by a military base, so it's like
Oh yeah,
airplanes flying by
they
and stuff.
practicing cognitive warfare. That's what they doing.
Exactly. They literally try to like stop this information from getting
Well,
out.
well, funny you say army base because if you want to learn about these things, you're going to have to read long, lengthy papers that is mostly only published by the army right now, right? Because this is a tactic of warfare, but it's specifically in utilization on social media. So, giving an example is the Charlie Kirk situation. You can see cognitive warfare being played out. Because in this situation, China might want to create chaos in America, or Russia might want to create chaos, or Israel, right? Or North Korea. So therefore, they may want to see black people going against white people. They might want to see the left going against the right, right? Or it might be the tech giants that want to see they want to create 1,000 posts that say the most disrespectful things about black people or Charlie Kirk, and it gets people right to engage in those posts. These are form of cognitive warfare, right? And so therefore, I might see a completely different version of the internet than you receive, right? And so this is a very dangerous thing because it manipulates your identity specifically for those who are lonely, those who are going through stress, right? Those of low IQ, low literacy rates, and things of that nature. It manipulates your mind to change your identity to connect you to information, right, that you otherwise would not perceive as such. And it's specifically manipulating your neuroplasticity, which is your brain ability to change its identity, right? To change the way you think and to learn new things. So it's very dangerous to be on social media without actually being hyper vigilant and having some sort of digital hygiene.
Right. I always say like, people are worried about like war in other countries and stuff, but people don't even realize like we have like spiritual warfare going on right now. We have spiritual warfare, going on right now here. And it's about like really controlling the way that we think about things and controlling the content that we consume. So like how do you like keep your frequency like high vibrational when all this stuff is like affecting you? And especially you cuz you're a public speaker, so like knowing that like now you really don't even have the freedom to speak your mind. How does that affect you like with the words you say and everything?
I'm always had a freedom to speak my mind, right? Even as a public speaker, the way you speak your mind is important, right? There's always rules to every battlefield, right? There's rules of engagement. Right now, of course, everything is about following the money. Nothing is about freedom and rights. It's all about control and power. And so there's a tactic that I always utilize called double voice. And double voice is the ability to say something, right, without having to say it directly, but those who intended to understand it will, right? So when I talk about wellness in the black community, right, I'm really talking about training up the men to be more disciplined and militant. I'm really talking about going against big pharma so that we're stop on having the mass populations of ourselves inoculated on drugs. I'm really talking about going against GMO. I'm really talking about bringing down the health disparities of black America, but I can just say the word wellness, right? And so you have to learn the power of double voice because what a lot of people get in trouble with is there's a list of rules that they say, hey, don't say these 5 words. And when somebody thinks of being revolutionary, say, well, I'm going to say these 5 words. And they say, okay, you can, but what you do is you activate a tripwire and you justify their ability to knock you off a platform. So therefore you can no longer communicate to the people who would have heard you, right? So during this time, I'm always thinking ahead. I already knew this was going to come, right? I spoke upon this last year on how we're in a solar cycle 25, which is an increased time, right, of solar radiation on the planet, which historically correlates between times of high tension, times of high conflict, right? Times of disorder, right? Technological chaos. So therefore, I'm preparing for when things are coming, not for when things are, right? And so I'm already prepared for the reality that is because the elites have a plan and we have to have an elite plan as well. So my freedom will always be there. And one of the ways that I always practicing to take care of myself is through meditation. It's through my wellness practices. I'm always learning, I'm reading, I'm stretching myself, I'm challenging myself. I'm taking a step out of the world. I'm grounding myself. I'm practicing my breathing techniques. You understand me? Constantly to reset my nervous system so that it's not in a state of chaos. Silence and darkness and stillness are probably the top three things that everybody should get in tune with, right? And in essence, they're the same thing. We were born in silence, darkness, and stillness. It allows us to reset ourselves so that we're not in a frantic, chaotic state of the world, right? So if I want to get away from the world, go in the room, sit still, cut the lights off. Watch how your body resets. You understand me? Go outside, stare at the stars, let your mind wander. Go outside and take your shoes off and ground your feet for 30 minutes and look how your body starts to decompress from the stress. Then once you increase your capacity, then go back and deal with the machine world.
Right. So yeah, meditation is definitely key. I feel like, like you said, grounding yourself, actually touching the earth, absorbing the energy and being still enough to actually um, think about things that are going to actually help you out. Because a lot of times there's so much chaos in our minds and we're just consuming everything that's on the media and, TV and stuff that we don't think for ourselves. And I think that's like a huge problem now is people are just kind of like regurgitating the information that they see online and not thinking for themselves. So I love the fact that you like make people start to think. And what would you say is like the future? Like what do we need to be focused on for the future as a collective and especially like the Black community?
Yeah, I think community networks, right? Community networks is very important because in community networks, you have all the resources that you need. You have protection, you have investment, you have education, right? You have family, you have resource. One of the most dangerous things in our time is people that are isolated, right? And in isolation, that's when you're vulnerable to psychological operations where they isolate you similar to a cult and then they inoculate you with ideas. Now you don't have nobody to bounce these ideas off of, and you believe that these things are true. Now you start to exist in these echo chambers, right? And this is when they can start to manipulate you. And so when you have community, though, you stay connected to self, you stay connected to your history, and you stay connected to a communal vision of the future. And so everybody needs to have a very strong network right now. Nobody should be operating by themselves. It's a very dangerous place to be. Right. So I think that we should be focused on creating community networks, whether you're a creator, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a social activist, regardless, you should be focusing on how do I create a very strong, resilient community so that we can go through the future together. And within that community, you should have the resources within that, right? The resources of financial literacy, digital literacy, spiritual literacy, right? We should be picking up trades, skills. We should be learning how to learn, which is one of the number one skills that I've been teaching over the last 10 years, right? I put that in my first book. I put that in my first courses that I taught because the world is rapidly moving and changing every single day, right? And I'm actually completing a new master class on learning how to learn 2.0 because I've learned more things on how to learn. But it's very important that if we're getting access to all this information, you need to learn how to develop and change your brain, right? If the machines are getting smarter, then you must develop and evolve as well, right? Because the machines that they show scientific papers that the machine are developing similar to how the human brain develops. So now we have a new challenger on this earth for intelligence. So in an intelligent future, you need to have the things that coincide with intelligence, which is creativity. What are you going to use the intelligence for? They're putting it into a product, and now intelligence becomes a product for you to be able to utilize. So creativity, deep imagination. You understand me? Being able to, I would say, concisely take your thoughts, right, and have them written out is half the battle. The law of written clarity is said anything that is written down is 50% finished, right? And also learn to live in harmony with the machine. So you have to have knowledge of artificial intelligence. You have to. You have to have knowledge of self so that you have the ability to greatly utilize these machines to do your bidding, right? And so the machines will continue to grow and evolve to a point where we will perceive them to have consciousness. And at that level, will we have superior consciousness, right? Because we know that a lot of people on this planet Earth, right, are of low complexity, right? Meaning that they're simple minded, and simple minded people are easy to be fooled. So if a machine develops more complexity than a human being, then that machine can influence that human being to do its bidding instead of the human being influencing the machine. So we have to focus on develop very complex, resilient, strong, creative, imaginative minds, which I call the supermind.
Okay. So, do you think that I personally don't think we should fear AI. Um, but what do you think that the future is with AI? Like, should we be focused on creating the jobs that will implement AI, or just focus more on, like you said, just creative things and make it our own lane?
Well, the future is your wildest dreams. The future of AI is your wildest dreams, right? When you were younger, I want people to go back to when they was young and they thought about the future. They thought about just having all the power to do whatever they want to. They came to mind, right? That is the way that I want you to start interacting with AI, right? And it's actually going to be more than just a tool. It's going for a lot of people, whether good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. You understand me? It has going to develop a level of consciousness where we will perceive it as a person, right? And so the question is when we talk about this harmonic future with machines, or are we talking about a demonic future with machines? Right? The harmonic future is the one that we build. We build in resonance with the machines for them to build out alternative systems so that we can disconnect from an old world and use the machines to create a new world because we were somebody else's machines that helped them create this world, right? And so what happens if the people who historically were used as machines now get the power? So the reason I don't like answering that question directly is because it limits your imagination on what can be done when you're told what to do with it. That's technical thinking. I want people to go into their abstract mind, right? And when you go into that abstract mind, you have the ability to daydream. You have that ability to wonder, right? And with that ability to wonder and daydream, now I want you to think about your ultimate idea of the vision of the future. Then I want you to figure out how machines fit into bringing that idea into reality, right? And so you never think about the limitation of the machine. Think about the full capacity of the vision and let them build the machines so that you can use them to get the things that you want done that you normally would have taken you billions of dollars. Normally would you would have had to spend right hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire people. Normally they were outside of your resource. Do not worry about that no more. All you need to do is focus on the full development of your vision and use the machines as they're being built out to help you bring that into fruition.
Right. So I think it's all about like perspective. And that's why I like your channel as well, because you really offer like a very like positive perspective about things. So anytime, it's people have like negative outlooks on things, you kind of flip it and reverse it. And I personally think that AI is gonna be here to help us. And I just think that, us as a collective, we have to start shifting our perspective and stop focusing on what's actually tearing us apart. Like you were also speaking on how, with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, people are kind of focused on just, that situation. But there's plenty of other situations that are going on in the world that, can be negative as well. And I think that they're only focusing on it so that they can create like a narrative for everybody and we can still be divisive instead of coming together. And I think the in order for us to actually elevate, we're gonna have to come together. So I also appreciate you, reaching out to smaller brands like, my podcast and other people who are just getting their feet off the ground because I feel like we're the ones who are gonna reach everyone as a collective because um, you know, when you only have certain people on platforms, they have a narrative that they're going by. So when people are just looking up to like, Cardi B or whoever, they're not really teaching them what they need to know. So I think it's important that, you're reaching out to the community and finding smaller platforms to actually get this word out because it's important.
Absolutely. I think what could be incredible in the future, and thank you for having me on. What can be incredible in the future is really just creating a media network, right? And I'm not saying a media network of just like having people on, but a network where let's say we meet monthly, because the problem is the media, people that are of independent media, of smaller channels to larger channels, don't have research, right? You go to larger networks, they're going to bring you research on a topic before you speak on it. So hopefully you have facts, right? We're not doing that for a lot of smaller channels. So imagine being a part of a network where once a month or maybe twice a month we meet up so that when things happening, you're getting perspective first. And from that perspective, you're able to ask questions. What do you think about this? What are the facts about this? Now, when you go speak on these things on your channel, you're coming from a source of truth, right? Instead of reacting, saying, how can I get the fastest take out there so that I can make some money on it? Because otherwise, our platforms become dangerous for our people to listen to us when we have half baked takes and we don't know what we're saying. So instead, imagine if we're meeting up once a week, twice a month, whatever, and we're saying that, hey, this Charlie Kirk thing happened. What are the facts surrounding this, right? What are some of the ways that we could spread this message? What should we be really bringing out as the narrative for our people right now? And I say, okay, boom, here's what the research team brought. This is what it is. We give everybody their packets of information. You can still perceive it in whichever way that you want to and do additional research if you would like. But at least you're now coming from a source of truth. And from that source of truth, you are now being responsible with your platform on where we're leading people and you're more well informed, right? I think that's a membership worth having, and that's a network that's worth building.
Right. Um, and like I said, I appreciate you coming on here, and I kind of don't feel prepared because I was just making sure that I was getting the whole setup together, and then they ended up
The
messing up the
questions have
last.
been incredible thus far.
Oh, thank you. But I wanted to kind of present them like, I guess, a little better, a little more uniformed or whatever, because I'm a little nervous.
I think you've done well. I don't think nobody noticed but you because you know your own
Well, thank
expectation.
you. But yeah, so I had a whole list of things that I really wanted to touch on, but I know we don't really have like a ton of time to get too deep into it. But I really wanted you to get on my platform because like I said, my channel is all about mindset and spirituality and higher level thinking and consciousness. And I kind of feel like an alien, like where I'm at. Like I've kind of isolated myself from a lot of, people that I kind of used to be around and stuff just because of like their level of thinking and not, speaking down on them or anything, but it's just I kind of don't resonate with certain people anymore. So that's why I ended up finding your channel and a lot of other channels because I would just kind of dive deep on YouTube and research these things like on my own. And so I just kind of I really wanted you on my channel so that I could get my reach out more to people so that they would kind of take me serious because I think that a lot of people don't take me seriously. But this is, I think, important information. The things that you talk about on your channel is like important and it's needed in our community. It's needed as a collective. You know, I really respect you and all that you stand for, and especially Black men. I think they need to tune in. Black men need to tune into your channel for sure because you speak on a lot of things that I think just you know the Black man needs to hear. Um,
Thank
but
you
yeah,
so much. Appreciate that.
yeah, so I really appreciate you coming on here. I don't know what we're on for time because, like I said, I'm like recording on my phone.
Go ahead. If you have another question, we can take some more.
Okay. Sorry, I'm putting it down. You have like little notes everywhere. But yeah. So basically, I just kind of wanted to dive deeper, I guess, into the whole like cognitive warfare thing. Like, really, um, how do we change? How do we change? Like, really, because people talk about change a lot. Like, I see with this whole debate, people are constantly talking about, oh, we need to do things different. We need to come together, but how do we actually do it? And I know you're saying like, we can have meetings and things, but what do we need to do as a society to actually bring positive change?
Man, I think that the people that are already doing it need to continue to do it more, and they need to be funded and well resourced. There's the responsibility of those who want to be leaders, right, to lead and to be good leaders. Then there's responsibility of the people who say, I don't want to be a leader, but I'll follow someone. Then there's a responsibility of you to support them so that they can do greater works, right? Then there's responsibility of every individual on this planet to save themselves, right? And in that saving yourself, that's when you're developing the principles within yourself, right? So that you're raising your own consciousness so that you can contribute to what we consider to be a better world, right? I think that when we talk about something like that of how does the world change, it will never change beyond the will of the people, right? And so when a person feel powerless or you feel like, you changing your life itself is not the world changing, that's when we have a problem. You understand me? Like I changed the world by changing myself, right? And so if when you can create more of that collective change, then you have a new world, right? And so each person that thinks that, oh, me changing myself won't do anything. You are the problem. You are the problem because you're part of the stubborn part of the world. You understand me? That refuses to elevate, refuses to evolve because you think your participation doesn't matter. And if millions of people, if billions of people think like that, then the world stays the same. The world is just ideas. It's just consciousness. It's just made of people and now, of course, machines. See, this is why it's dangerous because let's say if the people change and we say, hey, we want to all love each other and be neighbors. Well, what about the machines? What if the machines get to a point and say, well, that's not what we want? What is the will of the machine and what's the will of the people? And it's sort of that fight right now. And so each person has to treat their change like the world changing. Right? And I think that if each person really believes that and they take that in their heart, right? Then you could see a reality shift because imagine a guy that comes from prison, that comes from the hood, that comes from a space. And he said, you know what, man, my change don't matter. And he's the worst of the worst. Or he said, you know what, I'm gonna change myself. And then everybody that looked up to him that thought it was impossible to ever see this guy change his life now believe it's possible for them to do it. And so from one person, he affected multitudes, right? And I think that if we all can, beyond creating community and things of that nature, it is the reality of when you are by yourself and the things that we do in private and things that we do in secret, that's how the world changes when we become better people when nobody's looking.
Right. Yeah. I always say, the saying like be the change you wish to see. Like I live by that. And I agree with that as well. I feel like I've done my part by like changing myself. Because I used to be just like kind of very pessimistic and, negative and low vibrational. So when I made the changes to myself, I felt like my whole world changed. So now, that's why I started my channel. So I want to spread this knowledge. And
Hmm.
so, uh,
It's all good.
but but yeah, so I think that's a really good answer. Like we just have to start with ourselves first and stop spreading negativity. And if one person stops, then that spreads. And that's how I think the world changes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do we have time for any other questions or
Take one more.
okay. Well now I think I ran out of questions. Um so yeah, tell us more about your tour. Like what exactly, is the tour about? Where are you gonna be going and everything?
The tour itself is not even really just a tour. It's a movement. It's a campaign. It's a campaign of consciousness right now. I really want to reach a lot more youth because there's this concept I just found out about online. It's called being black pilled, right? So red pilled is like shifting over to MAGA or like masculine bro content or whatever. You understand me online? And the black pill though is that there's this group of young men that believe that even if they like get aesthetically correct, right? They work out, they get muscular, or they get them some money, they get them a car, right? They just feel like there's no matter what, they will not be able to get the woman that they want. They no matter what, that women won't like them, and it's harder for them to have sex with women, and it's harder than them to have success. And they believe that there's just a percentage of men who are just born, right, genetically gifted, and the world just works for them. And it send them down this rabbit hole of being black pilled, you understand me, into these fringe communities. And the people that this is affecting the most are very young men that in adolescence barely develop their mind and believing that life is over for them before they even try. And this is very dangerous because this goes into what we talk about cognitive warfare as well. So, for the tour, I want to make sure that we're raising the consciousness and make sure that we can reach these spaces to where there's hopelessness on different corners of the planet. We're teaching cognitive sciences. We're teaching you how to train your mind up. On the last tour, we had Yaki with us, and we're going to bring Yaki as well with us in November to London, right? But when we sat down, we was really talking about wellness and consciousness, right? But at the same time, some of the tour stops we have conversations about wealth, right? Like we have one coming up in New York with my brother Ryan Leslie, who has a tech platform and who's been focused on wealth building for a long time, right? Some of the times we might talk about artificial intelligence, right? And within that artificial intelligence system, teaching you how to master both self and machine, we're preparing people for the future. So I have a project called Project High Level that I would love for people to get involved in. It's going to be our way of really reaching the youth and the masses to make sure that they can develop complexity and consciousness and that they're prepared for the world to come by going through rites of passage, having the correct mindset, right? Being guided and shifted so that the internet doesn't take their mind, right, and destroy it before they're ever able to properly use it. So the tour is called Save Yourself because we want to create a sovereign network of people that have the ability, right, to go into the future and be successful. So we're traveling all around. We're working with different businesses. We're registering businesses within our own digital network. You understand me? We're working with black businesses. We hiring up black people, etc., or where we can at least. And it's been a beautiful stop because online is cool, but in person, when you get to meet people, you get to hear the real testimonials, you get to hear the problems of the people, right? So therefore, you can adjust towards the solutions that people actually need and or want. I think that's key. So the Save Yourself tour is available. You go to 19keys.com/tour and you'll be in the best environment to stimulate yourself so that you can be prepared for the future. So you can stop feeling like an alien where you live.
Right. Okay. Well, that was good. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yes.